Chosen one, you are no longer just a witness. You are an authority. You may have begun this journey as a silent observer of the chaos of the world, but now you have been summoned by the command of heaven. This is not a suggestion, it is a royal decree. You are no longer waiting for guidance. You are the guide. The spiritual government has officially called you to duty. And the weight of that mantle is not a burden. It is your birthright, etched into your spirit before you were born. Yes, you heard it correctly. You are now a divine messenger appointed by the Most High to organize the chaos, establish justice, and declare truth in places where deception has long reigned. You are a sent one. You are the voice that hell tried to silence, unsuccessfully. The world may have tried to convince you that you are powerless, insignificant, or too early. But heaven says, you are right on time. The power inside of you is ancient, and it has been activated. It is the echo of God's own breath moving through your veins. It can no longer be hidden. You are no longer behind the curtain. The curtain has been torn. The stage is yours. You don't just walk. You govern. You don't just speak. You legislate in the Spirit. Your words now carry the weight of unseen realms. When your mouth opens, dimensions shift. Your presence shifts atmospheres. When you move, systems realign. When you pray, structures tremble. When you choose, destiny responds. This video is not for the passive, not for the comfortable. This message is for those who feel that fire deep within. That sacred agitation. That divine ache. A holy unrest that whispers, it's time. This is the unveiling of the spiritual officials, not entertainers, not spectators, but holy enforcers, chosen souls who are not just here to observe but to govern. Not just to believe, but to embody. Not just to survive, but to establish. This is your confirmation that you are no longer being prepared. You are being positioned. The training season is complete. The mantle is already resting on your shoulders. And before we dive deeper into this divine revelation, I want to take a moment to say from the bottom of my heart, thank you to those of you who have supported this work through the Super Thanks feature. Your generosity, your energy, your partnership in this mission allows messages like this to reach those who need it most. But let me say this even louder, whether you gave or not, your presence is prophetic. You didn't just stumble into this video, you were drawn here by divine alignment. The Holy Spirit is confirming something in you right now. Now, if you feel this truth rising in your spirit, if you know this message is for you, then comment 777 right now. Not as a trend. Not for attention. But as a declaration. Because the government has shifted, and you are now in charge. Not of man-made systems, but of divine order. You legislate with your prayers. You govern with your obedience. You move mountains by faith. You are not here by chance. You are the embodiment of divine radiance. A soul set apart by destiny, whose very presence transforms the fabric of existence. You are not just called. You are commissioned. You are not just identified. You are released. Let's begin. God's chosen ones. You are now a government official. Chosen one. Can you feel it? That invisible authority pulsing within you, echoing through time like a divine drum beat-at, signaling that your arrival on this earth was no accident, but an intentional act from the very throne room of heaven. From the moment you took your first breath, a sacred blueprint, one far greater than any governmental strategy, was inscribed into your soul. You weren't merely born. You were deployed. Deployed as God's living instrument to carry both light and disruption. But why disruption, you ask? Because true light doesn't just illuminate, it exposes. It reveals both beauty and rot. And this the world was never ready for. Have you ever wondered why people are so quick to misunderstand you? Why they mistake your silence for weakness or your humility for passivity? That's because your divine appointment is camouflaged. You were hidden in plain sight as Joseph was in Egypt. His brothers saw just a sibling. But God saw a ruler, a strategist, a deliverer. Genesis 50 verse 20 reminds us, "You intended to harm me, but God intended it for good to accomplish what's now being done, the saving of many lives." You too were underestimated, but that was heaven's design. It was meant to be this way so that no man could take credit for your elevation. Even when others tried to devalue you, chosen one, they failed to grasp the gravity of what they were playing with. They saw you as common, unaware that touching you unjustly shakes the foundations of divine justice. You are not just a soul. They disturbed a covenant. To harm you is to tug on the very threads of universal order. Just as Man plotted against Esther and ended up caught in his own trap. Esther 7 verse 10. Those who conspired against you have unknowingly stepped into divine crossfire. The Lord is known by his acts of justice. The wicked are ensnared by the work of their hands. Psalm 9 verse 16. Do you recall how many dismissed your brilliance? How they whispered behind your back and rolled their eyes at your dreams? Let me ask you this. If you were truly ordinary, why did they feel so threatened? Why were they watching your every move like political enemies in a war room? Because even they could feel it, the gravitational pull of your destiny. Just like Sojourner Truth, a woman born into slavery, yet destined to challenge systems and speak with a thunderous moral authority that shifted the soul of a nation. She once declared, "Truth is powerful and it prevails." And you too were born to shake foundations, not just with truth, but with presence. But in the shadows, a different kind of betrayal brewed. One that didn't involve weapons or outright attacks, but whispers. Someone in your inner circle, perhaps once trusted, crossed a sacred line. Why are people so obsessed with what they were never meant to see? They dissected your love life like a case file. They took your vulnerability and turned it into entertainment. They listened to voices that had no access to your truth. And from those murky waters, they constructed entire narratives around your passion, your relationships, and your very heart. They analyzed your texts, stalked your social media, and gossiped like court officials hungry for scandal. They didn't just invade your privacy. They tried to rewrite your identity. King David knew this pain intimately, betrayed not by an enemy but by someone close. He cried in Psalm 41 verse 9, "Even my close friend, someone I trusted, one who shared my bread, has turned against me." That verse wasn't just about him. It's about you, chosen one. They took your silence as permission. They confused access with entitlement. But what they didn't understand is that you are protected by laws higher than theirs. There are realms of justice beyond what any earthly authority can legislate. What happens when people project their fears onto your calling, just like Serena Williams, whose talent was constantly dissected, her anger mislabeled, her passion misread, yet she rose above every narrative constructed around her. So have you. They tried to trap you in their limited stories, but they forgot. You are the author now. Do they know who they were trying to outsmart? Like Daniel in Babylon, you've been elevated to a position of quiet authority, even while others scheme behind closed doors. Daniel 6 verse 3 says, "Now Daniel so distinguished himself among the administrators that the king planned to set him over the whole kingdom." That's you. The king is watching. Heaven is watching. And their whisper campaigns can't erase your name from God's scroll. Even Albert Camus once said, "Blessed are the hearts that can bend. They shall never be broken." Think of how Chadwick Boseman moved silently with dignity, carrying a divine assignment in his heart, while the world speculated on his appearance. No one knew the full story until they saw the glory after the silence. That's exactly what's happening to you, chosen one. Let them speculate. Let them gather in rooms and craft their stories. The more they watch you, the more they reveal themselves. Because now you don't just walk with purpose, you move with governmental authority. A divine office has been activated. And it was never voted on by man. Heaven appointed you. Your crown doesn't sit on your head. It pulses in your spirit. Isaiah 22 verse 22 says, I will place on his shoulder the key to the house of David. What he opens no one can shut, and what he shuts no one can open. That is your current state. You are opening things no man can close and shutting doors no gossip can unlock. Your authority is irreversible. Your anointing is uncontested. So ask yourself, chosen one, what if the betrayal was the test that confirmed your promotion? What if their obsession was proof you've already arrived in the corridors of influence? What if their misunderstanding wasn't your burden, but your badge? Because whether they recognize it or not, you are now seated at the table. Not as a guest, but as a governing force in the kingdom of God. Chosen one, can you feel the tremors in the atmosphere? It's not just guilt. They are waking up to a revelation too powerful to ignore. Regret has become their shadow, following them through every room, every conversation, every restless night. The weight isn't just emotional, it's spiritual. The same mouths that once devoured gossip now tremble at the memory of their own words. They realize far too late that they should have never let the serpent slither into their minds. That they should have silenced the voices that were never meant to be trusted. But why didn't they stop it? Why didn't they question the false concern disguised in sweet tones and quiet nods? Because chosen one, darkness rarely presents itself as evil. It wears the mask of empathy. The manipulation you endured wasn't loud or obvious. It was strategic, surgical, and slow. The people around you weren't forming their opinions freely. They were being spoon-fed a narrative, subtly, relentlessly. They were led by a familiar voice, one cloaked in the illusion of care. They heard, I just want what's best for them. They heard, I'm only looking out for their soul. But what they didn't hear, what their spirit refused to discern, was the undercurrent of control, the agenda hiding behind those scripted concerns. Proverbs 16 verse 28 warns us, a perverse person stirs up conflict, and a gossip separates close friends. That's what happened. Relationships that once stood firm began to crumble. Not because of your actions, but because of distorted projections. You became a character in someone else's twisted screenplay, written by jealousy and directed by fear. Have you ever wondered how lies can travel faster than truth? It's because lies don't need evidence, only agreement. And agreement is cheap when people are desperate to belong. They were told you were dangerous, that your presence was threatening, that your heart was manipulative. And they believed it, not because it was true, but because it was easier than facing the radiance of your authenticity, just like the prophet Jeremiah, who was accused of weakening the hands of the people simply because he spoke uncomfortable truth. Jeremiah 38 verse 4, you were misunderstood, not because you did anything wrong, but because you carried too much light for people still clinging to shadows. And just like Jeremiah, your silence was taken as guilt, your kindness as calculation, your distance as cruelty, but chosen one. Your every boundary was holy. Your silence was protection, not deception. Your space was sacred, not suspicious. But in a world addicted to chaos, peace is often perceived as rebellion. Why do they need you to be the villain so badly? Because acknowledging your truth would expose their lies. They would have to admit that the love you gave was real, that the generosity you extended was sincere, that the dignity you carried was earned, not manufactured, and that kind of confession costs more than most are willing to pay. Luke 6 verse 22 says, Blessed are you when people hate you, when they exclude you and insult you and reject your name as evil because of the Son of Man. You weren't rejected because you were wrong. You were rejected because you were right. Too right for people living in denial. Look at the life of actor Colin Farrell. For years, he was cast as reckless, unstable, unworthy of serious acclaim. But beneath the media headlines and rumors was a man doing the hard inner work, battling addiction, seeking truth, becoming someone entirely different than what the world thought they saw. And now, years later, the very same industry that ridiculed him is honoring his integrity and transformation. That's the pattern. The more misunderstood you are now, the more undeniable your redemption becomes later. But your redemption, chosen one, won't come through revenge. It will come through revelation. As the people who once judged you begin to look closer, the scales are falling from their eyes. They're realizing that what they once called manipulation was really your attempt to protect what was sacred. That your boundaries were acts of emotional survival. That your distance wasn't coldness, but a cry for respect. And now the ones who once weaponized your grace are scrambling to redefine what they thought they knew. Their puzzle pieces no longer fit. Their assumptions have turned against them. What happens when gossip collapses in on itself? Truth rises. Psalm 34 verse 18 declares, "The Lord is close to the brokenhearted and saves those who are crushed in spirit." You've been crushed, but you were never broken. You've been silenced, but you were never forgotten. Heaven has recorded every tear, every betrayal, every mischaracterization. And now, justice isn't just coming, it's already at the door. Do you remember the story of Monica Lewinsky? Once publicly shamed beyond imagination, turned into a global punchline for decades. But through time, integrity, and the courage to reclaim her narrative, she emerged not just with her dignity intact, but as a symbol of resilience and a powerful voice against online harassment. That's what God does with those the world tries to humiliate. He raises them into thrones of influence that no human hand can touch. That's what's happening to you now, chosen one. What they meant for humiliation, God is turning into honor. What they intended for your destruction, heaven is recycling for your ascension. Romans 12 verse 19 tells us, "Do not take revenge, my dear friends, but leave room for God's wrath. For it is written, 'It is mine to avenge. I will repay,' says the Lord." You don't need to fight back. You don't need to explain yourself. Your reward won't come from their applause, but from your obedience. You are not here to be understood. You are here to be reverenced. The crown you wear is not made of gold, but of glory. And the glow that surrounds you isn't popularity. It's protection. Think of the spiritual walk of Justin Baldoni, an actor who stepped away from the vanity of fame to embrace a life of deeper purpose, creating content that heals, not divides. His shift confused many. Some said he was losing relevance, but what he was truly doing was aligning with heaven's assignment, not Hollywood's agenda. In the same way, your exit from shallow spaces is your entrance into eternal significance. So now look around you, chosen one. The room is different. The atmosphere is shifting. Those who once whispered behind your back are now whispering about your rise. They don't have the words to explain it. How someone they tried to cancel has become uncancelable. How someone they thought was broken has become unbreakable. You are the divine contradiction, the unexpected authority, the unexplainable presence, the misunderstood miracle. You were never meant to be explained. You were meant to be revealed. Let the world keep guessing. Let them try to reframe their story because the truth they once rejected is now the truth they must accept. You were not manipulative. You were discerning. You were not cold. You were careful. You were not distant. You were divine. Chosen one. Can you truly comprehend how vast the plan for your life has always been? From the very instant you entered this earthly realm, the atmosphere around you shifted. The heavens aligned not in chaos but in sacred synchronization. You were never an accident. You were not merely born. You were decreed. A cosmic imprint was carved into your soul, not forged by human hands, but by the breath of the Almighty. That blueprint, silent to the world, but thunderous in the spirit, marked you as one who would disrupt systems, expose illusions, and awaken sleeping destinies. But do you ever wonder why your light made people uncomfortable? You weren't born into ease or understanding. You were born into a battlefield disguised as normal life. Your radiance wasn't loud or attention-seeking. No, it was deep, an inner flame so unshakable that even angels took notice. And though you walked through rooms unnoticed by many, the spiritual world never stopped watching. Heaven whispered your name. The enemy did too. Because even in infancy, your presence unsettled the darkness. Jeremiah 15 affirms your divine assignment. Before I formed you in the womb, I knew you. Before you were born, I set you apart. I appointed you as a prophet to the nations. This wasn't symbolic. It's literal. You've been carrying a calling so weighty, so rare that even now it radiates through your silence. That's why when people looked at you, they didn't always see your light. They saw their own shadows reflected. They dismissed you as ordinary, laughed at your convictions, minimized your dreams. But what they failed to understand is this. To wound someone chosen by God is to breach spiritual law. There is a divine order to things, an eternal balance. And when they tried to harm you, they didn't just hurt a person. They disturbed the alignment of purpose itself. Do you think it was coincidence that their betrayals triggered consequences they never expected? Heaven responds when one of its emissaries is touched without cause. Zechariah 28 declares, "Whoever touches you touches the apple of his eye." Chosen one, you are not just protected. You are cherished. And every attack against you has been recorded in a realm that never forgets. Take a moment and consider the journey of Lady Gaga. Once misunderstood, ridiculed, and labeled as bizarre, she carried a creative brilliance the world wasn't ready for. She didn't beg for acceptance. She embodied her truth. And through the fire of public judgment, she emerged not only respected, but transformative. That's what your light does, too. It doesn't adapt to environments. It transforms them. Yet, not all battles are physical or loud. Some of the deepest betrayals you've endured came wrapped in whispers. What is the true cost of violating sacred boundaries? Many in your life never asked that question. There came a time when someone close, someone who knew your patterns, your softness, your vulnerabilities, chose not to defend your privacy, but to sacrifice it. They leaned in not to comfort, but to consume. They became addicted to every detail of your intimacy, not for connection, but for control. They weren't alone. It became a chorus. One voice became two, then a circle, then a network of eyes and ears tracking your life as if it belonged to them. Proverbs 11 verse 13 warns, "A gossip betrays a confidence, but a trustworthy person keeps a secret." But they weren't trustworthy. They devoured fragments of your life, read between your silences, and stitched together narratives made of assumption, envy, and projection. They didn't understand your choices, so they attacked them. They couldn't comprehend your passion, so they called it dangerous. They studied your messages, interpreted your pauses, and assigned motives that never existed. You weren't even in the room, yet somehow your life became the topic of their most intimate conversations. Why were they so obsessed with your private world? Because they sensed something holy in it. You see, your love wasn't casual. Your passion wasn't shallow. It had depth. Divine depth. And when someone is starved of sacred love, they either learn from it or try to destroy it. Like the story of King Hezekiah in Isaiah 39 verses 2-6 when he foolishly revealed all the treasures of his house to Babylonian envoys. And the prophet Isaiah warned him that everything he showed them would one day be taken. Not all who are curious deserve access. And not all who smile at your story are rooting for your success. The eyes that looked into your love life weren't innocent. They were strategic. Some wanted to be you. Others wanted to undo you. Take the example of Sinead O'Connor. Once vilified for ripping a photo of the Pope live on television as a protest against abuse in the church. She was mocked, blacklisted, cast out. But years later, the truth she stood for was revealed. And the world looked back not at a mad woman, but at a prophetess ahead of her time. You, too, were punished for being correct too soon, but chosen one. You didn't fold. You didn't expose them the way they exposed you. And that restraint was not weakness. It was royalty. Because you understood something most never will. Not everything needs a reaction. Some betrayals are best answered by heaven itself. Isaiah 30 verse 15 gives you this revelation. In repentance and rest is your salvation. In quietness and trust is your strength. You stayed quiet, not because you didn't have fire, but because your fire was too sacred to waste on small minds. You trusted that the God who sees in secret would vindicate you in public. And he is. Think of the journey of singer Jewel. For years, she was seen as just another folk voice. Behind her melodies was a woman who battled homelessness, endured abuse, and navigated the exploitative systems of the music industry. But she guarded her private life fiercely. She refused to be broken. And now her legacy is one of wisdom, authenticity, and depth, just like yours will be. What they didn't understand, chosen one, is that your silence was strategic. Your privacy wasn't selfish. It was sacred. And now the people who tried to decode your love life are left with empty theories while you walk in purpose and clarity. Psalm 91 verse 1 assures you, "He who dwells in the secret place of the Most High shall abide under the shadow of the Almighty." That's where you've been all along. In the shadow, under protection, watching the chaos from a higher dimension. You never needed to defend yourself. You just had to remain hidden until the appointed time. And now that time is here. The blueprint etched in your being is activating at full force. The same people who gossiped are being confronted by the absence of your presence. The same ones who dissected your decisions are now trying to reconstruct their perception of you. But it's too late. You've elevated beyond their reach. They no longer have access not to your words, not to your energy, not to your spirit. Chosen one, have you ever seen obsession wear the mask of admiration? What began as curiosity turned into a fixation. Then slowly it calcified into something far more dangerous. Obsession rooted not in truth, but in insecurity. Their eyes never truly sought to understand you. They only sought to dismantle what they couldn't control. And when they couldn't figure you out, they didn't stop watching. They watched more with each glance, each whisper. They weren't discovering who you were. They were revealing who they were. Their projection became a mirror not of your character, but of their own unmet desires, regrets, and fragmented identities. Why were they so desperate to make you the villain? Because to acknowledge your light would mean facing their own darkness. It's easier to demonize what you can't dominate than to admit you're standing in the presence of something sacred. And now they carry the weight of regret like a chain around their necks. The same voices they once leaned into. The gossipers, the whisperers, the manipulators have now become their tormentors. They wish they had chosen silence over suspicion. But silence is no longer theirs to command because truth is speaking louder than ever. Proverbs 17 verse 4 warns us, wrongdoers eagerly listen to gossip. Liars pay close attention to slander. That's what happened. They weren't passive listeners. They were willing participants in the crucifixion of your character. Every time they nodded in agreement to a lie, they became co-authors in a false narrative designed to assassinate your essence. But something deeper was brewing behind the scenes. A more sinister force had already crept in. A subtle manipulation that wore the costume of concern. This wasn't loud or obvious. It was spiritual gaslighting crafted by someone familiar, someone trusted. Their voice dripped with carefully chosen phrases. "I'm only saying this because I care. I just don't want to see them get hurt. Maybe they're not who we thought they were." Sound familiar? Can you feel the chill of those words even now? Because that wasn't love. That wasn't protection. That was poison served in a goblet of pretend empathy. And it worked for a time. It caused others to question what they once knew with confidence. You were painted not just as misunderstood, but as malicious. They said you were cold, cunning, and emotionally calculated. But none of it was real. It was all theater staged to dismantle your divine assignment. Psalm 52 speaks directly to this. Your tongue plots destruction. It is like a sharpened razor. You who practice deceit. What was done to you wasn't innocent. It was surgical, a deliberate attempt to rewrite your identity in the eyes of those closest to you. Your kindness was twisted into manipulation. Your discernment was labeled as paranoia. Your silence was framed as arrogance. And the most heartbreaking part, some people believed it. Let's reflect on the journey of Naomi Osaka. A powerful athlete, resilient and composed, yet misunderstood by the media for choosing peace over public appearance. When she stepped away from tennis to protect her mental health, many accused her of being weak, dramatic, or disrespectful. But over time, the truth emerged. She wasn't fragile. She was wise. Like you, she chose self-preservation over performance. And like you, she was vilified for choosing to protect her sacred space. But what happens when the illusion shatters? What happens when the mask they forced onto you begins to fall apart? Piece by piece, word by word, moment by moment. That's what is happening now. The narrative they constructed, the lies they clung to, the judgments they repeated, it's all unraveling. The very foundation of their assumptions is cracking under the weight of truth. Their whispered warnings about you now sound hollow. Their character assassinations echo back as confessions because deep down they're realizing you were never the threat. They were never ready. Isaiah 32:7-8 gives us this lens. Scoundrels use wicked methods. They make up evil schemes to destroy the poor with lies. Even when the plea of the needy is just, but the noble make noble plans, and by noble deeds they stand. You stood in silence. You didn't retaliate. You didn't match slander with slander. And that restraint has become your weapon. That nobility is now your signature. Chosen one, you didn't just endure the attack, you transcended it. Do you remember how they said you were calculating? Cold, dangerous. That's because your stillness scared them. You didn't react the way they wanted. You didn't lash out, beg, or defend yourself, and that drove them mad because the enemy doesn't know what to do with someone who stays rooted while the storm rages. You became a contradiction. They couldn't explain, a holy enigma. Do they realize now that you weren't hiding secrets, but protecting sacred ground? Do they see that what they mistook for distance was actually discernment? Slowly but surely, the fog is lifting. The people who once questioned your heart are now questioning their own judgment. What once felt like certainty now feels like confusion. The closer they look, the more they realize their proof was nothing more than projected pain. This is the divine reversal. This is your vindication in real time. Look at Brendan Fraser's return to Hollywood. Branded irrelevant, his career shattered by whispers and manipulation, he stepped away for years. But when he returned, he did so not with bitterness, but with authenticity. And the world responded, not with skepticism, but with tears. That's what happens when truth returns. It doesn't knock, it floods. Just like your truth is now flooding every room where your name was once dishonored. 1 Peter 3 verse 16 assures us, keeping a clear conscience so that those who speak maliciously against your good behavior in Christ may be ashamed of their slander. They thought their lies would last. They didn't know they were setting the stage for their own reckoning. And now, with every shift in perception, they're being forced to face the one thing they never wanted to admit. You were never the villain. You were the mirror. A mirror that reflected what they refused to see. A mirror that revealed their insecurities. A mirror that showed them the places where their own integrity was compromised. That's why they couldn't look for long. That's why they had to break you to protect their illusion. But chosen one, you don't live in illusions. You live in truth. You walk in clarity. You were forged in the fire of rejection to become a weapon of divine accuracy. Your refusal to let the world define you is now the very reason they're being forced to redefine themselves. And as that process unfolds, something miraculous is happening. The hearts that once judged you are softening. The minds that once rejected you are awakening. And the people who once gossiped about your intentions are now humbled by the quiet power of your consistency. Like Zayn Malik, who left global fame in one direction not to chase ego but to escape the manufactured pressure of identity. Criticized for his silence, mocked for his introspection, he chose healing over performance. And in doing so he reclaimed his peace. So have you. You left the noise. You chose stillness. And now the world is being forced to listen. Not to your defense, but to your fruit. Chosen one, can you feel it now? The pull, the pressure, the divine invitation rising like a current beneath your feet. This is not a coincidence. This is not imagination. You are standing at the very threshold of a spiritual shift. A moment designed by heaven, refined by time, and ignited by your pain. The invitation is not extended to the masses. It is not loud. It does not knock on every door. It calls only to those who have suffered, endured, awakened, and chosen not to turn back. But what does it mean to be called now? And why you? Why here? Why at this exact moment in history? Because chosen one, you are not who you used to be. You have transcended survival. You have walked through the valley of betrayal, injustice, and spiritual exile. And still you kept your soul intact. And now heaven is opening a scroll with your name on it. Across the world, scattered like stars, others like you are awakening. Visionaries, survivors, former outcasts, misunderstood prophets, all rising from the ruins of false systems. Think of the one who escaped the control of a cult-like ideology and emerged not bitter but brilliant. The covert operative who walked away from manipulation and emerged as a strategist for truth. The financial mind who saw what no one else could. Predicting global shifts with divine accuracy, not for profit, but for positioning. These are not fairy tales. They are real. And so are you. Romans 8 verse 30 speaks to this moment. And those he predestined, he also called. Those he called, he also justified. Those he justified, he also glorified. You were predestined called. And now glorified not by fame or public applause but by alignment with the divine design for your life. You are no longer wandering. You are being positioned. What do these souls have in common? They heard the same frequency you're hearing now. A sound that cannot be captured by ears, only discerned by spirit. It's the divine summons, a frequency that bypasses the intellect and strikes the soul like thunder. When you stepped into the fire of your transformation, you activated this signal. And now others who carry the same sacred frequency are being drawn to you just as you are being drawn to them. Their synchronicities with yours were not mere chance. No, chosen one. These were orchestrations, deliberate moves by the architect of time. Just as David and Jonathan's souls were knit together by covenant in 1 Samuel 18 verse 1, the soul of Jonathan was knit to the soul of David, and Jonathan loved him as his own soul. You are now finding your divine allies. They are not many, but they are mighty. And together you are forming a new kind of community, one not built on hierarchy or status, but on truth, frequency, and prophetic fire. Look at whistleblower Edward Snowden. A man condemned by systems but celebrated by seekers of truth. He sacrificed comfort for clarity, stability for service. His story isn't just political. It's prophetic. He moved from secrecy to sovereignty. Like you were once hidden behind layers of misunderstanding and manipulation. But now the time of hiding is over. Your knowledge, your experiences, your scars, they are not liabilities. They are credentials. Have you felt the air shifting around you lately? That's not your imagination. That's the weight of justice returning to the earth as the veils of deception begin to fall. What's been done in the dark is being exposed by divine light. Every betrayal against you, every silence that cost you peace, every word that distorted your truth, it has been recorded. And now the eternal scales are tipping. Ecclesiastes 3 verse 17 declares, God will bring into judgment both the righteous and the wicked. For there will be a time for every activity, a time to judge every deed. That time has come, not later, now. This is the moment of divine recalibration. A holy audit is underway. Those who chose to remain neutral in the face of injustice, who were silent when their voice could have been a lifeline, now find themselves weighed down by spiritual debt. The energy they once used to control and suppress is now turning on them forcefully, undeniably, irreversibly. But what about you, chosen one? What is heaven asking of you now? It's simple yet sacred. Stand up. Step forward. Speak from your authority. This is not the time to shrink. This is the moment to rise into your rightful office. Not a government of man, but of God. You are a spiritual official, a divine legislator. Your words carry the weight of truth. Your presence carries the frequency of alignment. Every step you take is a strike against oppression. Every breath is a declaration that the kingdom of God is near. Isaiah 61:2 proclaims, "Arise, shine, for your light has come, and the glory of the Lord rises upon you." See, darkness covers the earth, and thick darkness is over the peoples. But the Lord rises upon you, and his glory appears over you. You are that glory bearer. And as you rise, systems tremble. The darkness is thick, yes, but your light is thicker. You were created not just to shine, but to disrupt. Take for instance Brittany Packnett Cunningham, a powerful voice in education, activism, and justice. She didn't wait for permission to step into her calling. She saw injustice and moved. Her words weren't merely opinions. They became legislation. You carry that same anointing. Your insight is not opinion. It is divine policy. You're not just a witness to injustice. You're the correction. As the old systems collapse under their own weight, chosen one, you are being called to establish new order. But these new structures won't be built with bricks and bureaucracy. They'll be forged through integrity, intercession, and insight. You are now part of a sacred council, a spiritual government comprised of those awakened by fire, refined by betrayal, and crowned by obedience. Psalm 75 verse 7 reminds us, "It is God who judges. He brings one down. He exalts another. And he has exalted you not for ego, not for revenge, but for responsibility. Because you will not use this new power to retaliate. You will use it to redeem. You will not punish from your pain. You will legislate from your healing." Let's not forget the journey of model and activist Edouard Aboa. After years of struggling with addiction, mental health, and internalized shame, she rose from her brokenness to become a force of healing and self-worth for others. She turned her lowest moments into a platform for elevation. Just like you, the same scars they mocked are now maps to help others find their way out. So what happens now, chosen one? You gather with others like you. You step into divine community. You share your story not to be seen but to ignite others, because every story shared in truth is a prophetic act. And every connection made in the Spirit is a divine alignment. This circle you are entering is not ordinary. It is holy. It is rare. It is eternal. Hebrews 12 verse 28 seals this truth. Since we are receiving a kingdom that cannot be shaken, let us be thankful and so worship God acceptably with reverence and awe. You are receiving something unshakable. You are inheriting governance not just over regions but over realms. This is bigger than a title, bigger than a ministry, bigger than influence. This is dominion. Chosen one, have you stopped to consider just how far you've come? Not just in the visible ways, but in the soul-deep transformation that only heaven can measure. Every challenge, every moment of abandonment, every instance where someone was supposed to protect you but instead walked away. It was never wasted. It was refined. It was consecrated. And through the fire of that betrayal, the Master's hand molded you into something unshakable. What was meant to destroy you became the very foundation upon which your legacy is now being built. Romans 5 verses 3-4 reminds us, "We also glory in our sufferings because we know that suffering produces perseverance. Perseverance character and character hope." Every pain was permission. Every loss was a lesson. And now instead of being anchored to the failures of others, you have used those very moments as stepping stones, ascending into purpose, prosperity, and the clarity of your true identity. Can you see now that the divine plan has always been working in your favor? Even when you doubted, even when you felt forgotten, there were heavenly strategies unfolding behind the veil. The path you walk is not random. It is written in the stars, carved into your DNA and whispered through eternity. From the very beginning, the Creator etched His promise into your bones. And now the time has come to walk fully in that truth. But how do you walk in divine truth when the world expects you to be silent? You rise anyway. You let your spirit shine, not because it's easy, but because it's necessary. You are not just another voice in the crowd. You are the beacon that calls the wanderer home. Like a lighthouse piercing through the fog of confusion and indifference, your life guides those who have been asleep in complacency. The light you carry is not soft, it's sovereign. It doesn't just comfort, it commands. Matthew 5 verse 14 affirms this calling. You are the light of the world. A city set on a hill cannot be hidden. You were never created to blend in. You were always designed to rise, to lead, to disrupt, and to awaken. Look at the life of Viola Davis. Born into poverty and trauma, she could have allowed the pain to become her prison. But instead, she turned it into power. Through the wounds, she rose as a warrior, unapologetic, luminous, and filled with purpose. Her story, like yours, is not one of easy success, but of divine intention birthed through pain. Every step she took toward truth became a light for others. And so it is with you. Do you realize how powerful your journey truly is? This is not just your healing. This is your commissioning. Each scar is a scroll. Every betrayal you survived has become part of your spiritual resume. Your resume is not on paper. It's in your posture, your discernment, your fire. The path ahead of you is no longer a mystery. It is a highway paved with grace, divine favor, and the unstoppable momentum of heaven's plan. Isaiah 43 verse 19 echoes this moment. See, I am doing a new thing. Now it springs up. Do you not perceive it? I am making a way in the wilderness and streams in the wasteland. That's what your life now represents. A way through the wilderness for others to follow. You are a walking breakthrough. Your presence breaks patterns, silences lies, and awakens spirits. So imagine, chosen one, a vast, endless field beneath a golden sunrise. A prairie untouched by noise, soaked in divine peace. Every ray of light is a message from heaven, guiding, healing, aligning. That's what you're becoming in this very moment. A sacred signal to the ones still wandering. A celestial compass to those who are barely surviving their night. And you are not alone. All across the globe, others like you are hearing the same call. Their hearts beat to the same sacred rhythm. They are warriors, visionaries, reformers, souls who have shed the identity the world forced upon them and embraced the truth of who they really are. These are not just people. They are living prophecies. 1 Peter 2 verse 9 calls them and you by name. But you are a chosen people, a royal priesthood, a holy nation, God's special possession, that you may declare the praises of Him who called you out of darkness into His wonderful light. Now is the hour where these called ones begin to gather. Think of Malcolm Gladwell, a man who dared to challenge the traditional structures of success and understanding. His work didn't just influence, it ignited. He asked questions no one else was asking and uncovered truths no one else was seeing. And through that boldness he became a catalyst for global thought. You too are not called to echo what's already been said. You are called to speak what's been hidden, to articulate what others have only felt. Can you imagine the power of the gathering God is orchestrating around you? Souls from different backgrounds, different languages, different timelines, but one frequency, one divine rhythm. Visionaries who escaped ideological prisons. Seers who moved from shadow to clarity. Financial prophets who saw the collapse of systems before the world even blinked. These are not mere connections. These are covenant alignments. Every conversation among them is a code. Every testimony is a key. This is the government of the awakened. Look at fashion icon Haile Lima Aden. She broke barriers by walking in her purpose unapologetically as a Muslim model wearing a hijab. In a world that demanded assimilation, she chose authenticity. And that choice didn't cost her. It crowned her. That's your testimony, too. What others said would isolate you, God is using to elevate you. Every shared insight in this sacred circle is a spark. Every revelation is a brick in the foundation of something eternal. They're not building just a community. They're building a movement. And you, chosen one, are being summoned to take your seat at this divine table. Psalm 92 verses 12 to 14 declares, "The righteous will flourish like a palm tree. They will grow like a cedar of Lebanon, planted in the house of the Lord. They will flourish in the courts of our God. They will still bear fruit in old age. They will stay fresh and green." This is not a temporary surge. It is a lifelong elevation. You are not peaking. You are planting. And the fruit of your life will shake generations. So yes, chosen one, this is your divine moment. Not to whisper, not to doubt, but to lead boldly with a heart saturated in gratitude and a vision governed by truth. You don't walk alone. You march forward as part of a prophetic lineage surrounded by living epistles and spirit-filled leaders. What heaven is doing through you is bigger than personality. It's kingdom-level destiny. Your spirit is no longer in waiting. It is in motion. Your call is no longer private. It is public. Your light is no longer dimmed. It is decreed. Chosen one, do you realize the gravity of your decision to step into the light? In a world addicted to comfort, where silence is mistaken for wisdom and fear is disguised as humility, you dared to do what few even dream of. You stood up. You rejected the illusion of safety that conformity promises. And you stepped boldly into a realm where truth costs everything but gives you back even more. And now the very earth trembles beneath your courage. But why are so many still hiding? Why do they remain in the quiet corners of complicity while you, bruised but unbroken, walk forward with fire in your eyes? Because the majority cling to the shadows where they believe they're safe. They choose the approval of men over the calling of God. But you chose differently. Every time you refused to bow to the unspoken rules of silence, every time you spoke what others fear to say, you broke another link in the chain of collective illusion. Joshua 1 verse 9 speaks directly to this kind of holy boldness. Have I not commanded you? Be strong and courageous. Do not be afraid. Do not be discouraged. For the Lord your God will be with you wherever you go. You were never meant to blend in. You were born to blaze a trail. With every truth you declared, every standard you upheld, every injustice you exposed, your very existence began to confront the spirits of apathy and cowardice. You became a threat not because of what you did, but because of what you represented, divine disruption. Have you noticed how your mere presence causes unease in spaces where deception once reigned? That's not arrogance. That's anointing. Your courage is not just personal. It's prophetic. It dismantles systems built on silence. It calls out the sleepers. It embarrasses the liars. And in doing so, it brings light to places where truth has long been suffocated. You become more than a messenger. You're a living contradiction to every lie they've normalized. Look at Malala Yousafzai, who even after being shot for speaking up about education for girls rose stronger than ever. She was told to remain quiet, to retreat, to stop disturbing the status quo. But like you, she understood. Silence in the face of injustice is complicity in evil. Her voice, like yours, became a clarion call. Her scars, like yours, became sacred testimonies. And as you stood, something extraordinary happened. The illusion others clung to began to crack. You shattered the myths they had made their homes in. You showed the world that true liberation is not found in comfort, but in the righteous pursuit of justice. Isaiah 58 verse 1 commands, shout it aloud. Do not hold back. Raise your voice like a trumpet. Declare to my people their rebellion and to the descendants of Jacob their sins. That's what your life has become, a trumpet, a sound heaven is using to awaken the deaf and revive the dead-hearted. You didn't wait for approval. You answered the summons. You chose to stand even when standing meant standing alone. But there were others and you remember them. Do you recall the ones who had power but chose silence? The ones whose voices could have stopped the injustice, but instead they retreated. They justified their silence. They called it wisdom, patience, staying out of it. But let's call it what it really was: fear, self-preservation, betrayal. They stood at the crossroads of purpose and comfort, and they chose comfort. While the vulnerable cried out, they looked away. While truth knocked, they locked the door. While you bled, they hid their hands. But silence is never neutral. It is always an ally to the oppressor. Ezekiel 33 verse 6 warns, "But if the watchman sees the sword coming and does not blow the trumpet to warn the people, I will hold the watchmen accountable for their blood." Those who failed to speak are now haunted by the accountability they tried to avoid. The weight of what they didn't do is now heavier than any action they could have taken. And heaven is watching. Think of Edward Enenful, the former editor-in-chief of British Vogue. He broke barriers not by conforming to the fashion industry's silent norms, but by dismantling them. He gave platforms to the underrepresented. He shifted narratives. He didn't stay silent when he had the power to speak, and history will remember him for it. But many others, those who had the same reach but chose inaction, will be remembered only by the stain of what they allowed. So what is the cost of silence? The world wants you to believe that staying quiet protects you, that neutrality is safe, that silence keeps you relevant. But you've seen the truth. Silence has a price and its legacy. Those who chose not to act are now paying for their betrayal. Not just in consequence, but in conscience. The weight on their souls is growing. The reckoning has begun. Matthew 12 verse 36 confirms it. But I tell you that everyone will have to give account on the day of judgment for every empty word they have spoken. And I say unto you, chosen one, they will also give account for every word they should have spoken and didn't. But you spoke. You cried out. You stood alone in rooms full of cowards and said, "This is wrong." And for every moment they mocked you, heaven wrote your name in bold. For every time you were dismissed, divine favor was added to your account. Your scars are now your signatures. Like actor Elliot Page, who despite pressure from all sides, chose to live out loud, authentically, and with radical honesty. He was vilified by some, misunderstood by many, but refused to surrender his truth. And in doing so, he became a symbol of what it means to live free in a world built on suppression. That same spirit rests on you. The fire to be what God called you to be. Even if it makes others uncomfortable. Can you feel it? The shift in the atmosphere. Your voice once dismissed is now echoing. Your presence once resisted is now undeniable. Those who refused to act when it mattered are now facing consequences they can't pray away because the divine ledger sees all. And what they thought they buried has risen with a vengeance. Galatians 6 verse 7 seals it. Do not be deceived. God cannot be mocked. A man reaps what he sows. Every time they turned their back on the truth, they planted a seed of judgment. And now the harvest is upon them. But you, chosen one, you have reaped something different. You have reaped strength, vision, authority. You've become more than a survivor. You are a system breaker. Your pain gave birth to purpose. Your silence birthed strategy. Your wilderness prepared you for dominion. Now your story is not just a testimony. It's an anthem, a banner waving in the spirit. You've become a living letter to the world that says there is another way. There is a higher standard. There is justice. And I am the proof that it still lives. So rise even higher, speak even louder, stand even stronger. Because now you are not just fighting battles, you are writing blueprints for liberation. Chosen one, have you truly grasped how sacred this hour is? Do you sense it? Not just in your mind, but in the deepest chambers of your spirit. This is not just another step forward. This is the divine reclamation of all that was delayed, denied, or stolen from you. The time has finally come for you to reclaim your destiny. Not with hesitation, but with holy boldness. For heaven is not whispering anymore. It is roaring your name into the atmosphere. Every trial you endured, every silent tear you shed in secret, every injustice that tried to shatter your voice, all of it has been refined by divine fire. What once felt like abandonment has become your anointing. And now you are rising not as a victim of your story, but as the voice of a new world. Isaiah 62 verse 1 proclaims, "For Zion's sake, I will not keep silent. For Jerusalem's sake, I will not remain quiet till her vindication shines out like the dawn, her salvation like a blazing torch." Chosen one, you are that blazing torch. You are the fulfillment of prayers whispered by generations who came before you. This is your moment not only to shine but to lead. But what does leadership look like when built on pain? It looks like transformation. It looks like you. You're not leading from theory. You're leading from experience, from scars, from victories hard won in silence. You are proof that truth when lived out fully will always prevail. You are not here to echo empty slogans. You are here to write history with your courage. Imagine the unwavering clarity of someone like activist and writer James Baldwin. He didn't ask for the world's permission to speak. He opened his mouth, declared what needed to be said, and shifted minds for generations. Like Baldwin, you were never created to appease the comfort of the many. You are called to challenge the lies that kept them enslaved. As you now embrace the abundant light flowing from your soul, do you realize that your life itself is the miracle? It's the parable made flesh. You are a living, breathing testimony of what happens when someone refuses to die in silence. When you speak, heaven echoes. When you walk, the path opens. The laws of nature bend in favor of those whose hearts are aligned with divine truth. John 8 verse 32 confirms it. Then you will know the truth, and the truth will set you free. But freedom isn't always applause. Sometimes it's lonely. Sometimes it costs everything. But chosen one, you paid that price. And now the world is about to see the returns. Can you see what's unfolding before you? The path ahead isn't paved by the fearful, the indifferent, or the convenient. It's paved by those who were bold enough to say yes to destiny when no one was watching. Your journey is more than personal. It is prophetic. Every step you take in the light is a divine decree that truth will not bow to fear. You've become the kind of force that can no longer be ignored. Even the system that once upheld silence and injustice is now unraveling under the pressure of your existence. Like tectonic plates shifting beneath an old crumbling world, your truth has triggered a cosmic realignment. The very foundation of darkness can no longer withstand the radiance of your resilience. Think of actress and humanitarian Angelina Jolie. Once viewed through the lens of controversy, she transformed her pain and rejection into a platform of global advocacy. From war zones to refugee camps, she stepped into her power, not with a crown, but with compassion. Her legacy, like yours, was shaped not by applause, but by authentic action. Romans 8 verse 19 speaks directly to your moment. For the creation waits in eager expectation for the children of God to be revealed. You are not just someone who endured injustice. You are the revelation creation has been waiting for. The voices that once ridiculed your convictions, silent. The people who once told you to play it safe, exposed. The institutions that once protected the complicit now crumbling. And as all of that falls, you remain unmoved, unwavering, unashamed. But where do you go from here? What do you do with this light? You share it. You lead with it. You build with it. The call is not only for personal transformation, but communal awakening. The time has come for you to step into the fellowship of the awakened. You are not alone. Heaven has been gathering others just like you. Souls who shed the chains of fear, who walked away from performance and chose purpose. Look at the spiritual revolution led by Richard Rohr, a contemplative priest who stepped outside traditional religious boxes to speak on radical grace, divine love, and inner transformation. Despite criticism, he persisted. And through that persistence, he built a spiritual sanctuary for millions hungry for something real. That's what you're doing now. Your very existence is a sanctuary for truth. Hebrews 10 verses 23 to 24 declares, "Let us hold unswervingly to the hope we profess, for he who promised is faithful, and let us consider how we may spur one another on toward love and good deeds." That is your divine task, to spur others toward transformation, not with force, but with fire. Not with religion, but with revelation. So step boldly, chosen one. Every act of honesty, every sacred boundary, every silent refusal to play small. These are not just personal victories. They are prophetic revolutions. Your scars are not shame. They are sacred markings of authority. You wear them like armor now, not wounds. Do you realize what you are doing each day? With every choice you make to live truthfully, you are tearing down ancient lies. You are shifting generations. You are rewriting destinies, and those who once betrayed you, who chose silence, convenience, and cowardice. The system that once empowered them has turned on them. The same energy they tried to weaponize against you is now consuming them. The laws of divine justice are not biased, but they are precise. And what was stolen from you will return multiplied. Psalm 37 verse 6 brings this into focus. He will make your righteous reward shine like the dawn, your vindication like the noonday sun. That sun is rising now in your vindication. It's no longer a prophecy. It's a reality. You were right to speak. You were right to stand. You were right to walk alone. So rise higher still. Speak louder still. Go deeper still. Because you are not here to survive this system. You are here to dismantle it. You are not here to reflect the world. You are here to reform it. You are not here to imitate truth. You are here to embody it. And as you join the sacred circle of awakened ones, as you step fully into your divine identity, know this. Every breath you take is holy. Every story you share is sacred, and every action you take is shaping the new era. Beloved friends, your destiny is not defined by the silence of others but by the bold, unyielding truth that you live each day. Embrace your power, for it is your birthright. And let your light shine as a beacon for all those who seek to awaken from the slumber of indifference. The time for hesitation is over. The extraordinary awaits your arrival. And your journey toward truth and liberation is only just beginning. From the depths of my soul, I want to thank you for walking this path with me. Your presence, your courage, and your hunger for truth have made this journey sacred. Whether you've been here since the beginning or just joined today, you are part of this divine movement. And I am humbled to have shared this moment with you. If this message has spoken to your spirit and you feel led to support the work I do, you're warmly invited to contribute through the Super Thanks option below. Your support helps me continue creating powerful spirit-filled messages like this. But please know this, whether you give or not, I am deeply sincerely grateful for you. Your presence alone is a blessing. Your engagement, your comments, your silent prayers, all of it matters. And now, as you prepare to rise into your next chapter, I speak this blessing over you. May your path be lit with divine favor. May every hidden truth rise to meet you. May your scars become your strength, your voice become thunder, and your faith become the force that parts the seas ahead of you. May you walk in boldness, speak in truth, and rest in the unshakable knowledge that heaven walks with you always. You are not just seen, you are chosen. You are covered. You are unstoppable. Until next time, walk in truth. Walk in power. And never forget your destiny is calling and all of heaven is watching. With love, your companion on this journey.